that house, where the dimly lit hallways seemed to swallow even the faintest screams, fear seeped into the walls. The children ran hurriedly, not knowing exactly what made them fear that place, but they felt like a deep instinct that it was not safe. Of course, they had no idea that in that particular house, the truth was buried far beyond the reach of any innocent gaze. But as if fear were a shadow that could never be dispelled, the dark reality began to emerge years later, bringing to light a terrifying revelation. The place had been used to hide the bodies of countless victims of organized crime. And questions, those began to linger in the air like a thick fog. What once seemed like a normal, unremarkable building became an epicenter of terror when the secrets started coming to the surface. Whispers spread through the local streets about strange activities, about people sneaking in and out, but no one knew for sure what happened behind those locked doors. Until, over time and after a series of investigations, the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. In that house, horrific crimes had been committed, with bodies carefully hidden in the hopes that fear and horror alone would keep them buried forever. Imagine the scene: a house seemingly ordinary, yet immersed in a silence as deep as a tomb. Every corner, every staircase, seemed to bear the weight of lives that had been erased there, consumed by the organized crime lurking in the shadows. The horror of discovering that it was all part of a sinister plan is like having a truth never before considered suddenly revealed. And then the real question arises: how many more secrets does the house still hold? How many fears linger in the memories of those who dared to step inside? When the bodies were found and the truth came to light, the house was seen in a completely different way. It was as if a veil of horror had fallen over the place, turning what once appeared to be an ordinary residence into a symbol of fear and tragedy. The town, previously oblivious to the mysteries surrounding it, now looked at that house with dread. People began avoiding it, feeling that a strange and heavy presence had taken over. Many claimed that the air inside felt dense, as if fear itself had soaked into every piece of wood and brick. After the discovery, the house was abandoned, but the fear it instilled was not. No one dared to enter, and the neighbors, unsettled, started murmuring stories about strange noises at night, shadows in the windows, and figures moving without explanation. It was as if, in some way, the horror of its past still lived within its walls. Those who dared to glance at the house from afar felt a chill crawl up their spine, as if the very place called forth the memories of the victims whose lives had been brutally taken. Fear spread like a disease, and the emptiness within the house seemed to feed the terror even more. Over the years, the house was left untouched, but what happened to it after the discovery remains a mystery. Some theories began to take hold among the locals. Some believed that, being a place so marked by terror and crime, the house would be demolished to erase its legacy. Others claimed that the house, with all its power to inspire fear, would be left exactly as it was, a monument to the horrors it had witnessed. And so, fear continued to haunt everyone, even without knowing what had truly become of the house after all this time. The investigations took an even darker turn as more details came to light. The bodies found in the house were only the tip of the iceberg in a much broader and more sinister criminal scheme. What initially seemed like a simple case of corpse concealment soon unraveled into a network of human trafficking and illegal activities tied to organized crime. The fear that gripped the town was now more than justified, as it became clear that these criminals weren't just using the house as a dumping ground, they were operating in the shadows far beyond that. The house, once thought to be a fortress of secrets, was now just a small piece of a terrifying puzzle. Over time, investigations revealed that those responsible for these atrocities were members of a criminal syndicate operating silently throughout the city. They had chosen that specific location for their gruesome activities because, somehow, the house seemed like the perfect place to hide their crimes without drawing much suspicion. However, the truth came out and names began to surface, accompanied by stories of even more horrifying cruelty. The fear that spread through the city was no longer just fear of the unknown, but the chilling realization that those responsible were closer than anyone had imagined. As more clues emerged, the details about the perpetrators became even more disturbing. Some reports indicated that the criminals weren't acting alone. There was a network of accomplices in various sectors of society. In a town where trust had been shattered, no one seemed to know whom they could believe anymore. The terror was no longer just confined to the abandoned house but had seeped into the streets, into places where people had once felt safe. The thought that these criminals could be lurking, ready to strike again, turned every corner into a potential horror scene. Fear had taken root in every street, and the truth about those responsible seemed even more twisted than anyone had imagined. After the revelations about the criminals and the house's macabre past, the town tried to move on, but the fear still lingered in the air, like a dark cloud that never dissipated. Those who had witnessed the horrors of that place firsthand would never forget the muffled screams that had echoed through its walls, the whispers that even now seemed to pass through the collective memory. Some, in their own homes, swore they had felt a strange presence, a shiver running down their spine, a cold breath from some unknown corner. But the real question remains, what if the evil was never truly eradicated? What if, beneath the silence of the town, something dark was still lurking, waiting for the right moment to return? Who's to say the house, with all its horrors, wasn't just the beginning of something much bigger, something that is yet to come? Have you ever felt a fear so deep that it seemed to follow you? And what if the answer to that fear was closer than you ever imagined? Just think about what might be happening right now, right under your nose, without you even knowing. Don't miss out. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss more stories that will push the boundaries of what you believe to be real. What do you think might still be lurking in the shadows? Let's find out together.